Can a cat act with empathy or even with purpose? Can it influence an entire economy or protect a helpless child with the vigilance of a human guardian? What do these moments of feline brilliance tell us about the minds of animals, and what hidden threads tie together myth, biology, and culture? In this analysis, we journey from a snowy stairwell in Russia to the spiritual shrines of Japan, tracing the uncanny stories of two extraordinary cats, whose actions defy our understanding of instinct, intelligence, and interspecies connection. Masha, a long-haired tabby stray in the Russian city of Obninsk, emerged as an unexpected heroine during a brutal winter in January 2015. Cloaked in the icy darkness of a stairwell, she was found curled tightly around an abandoned infant boy, her fur acting as a living shield against temperatures that had plummeted to -20 degrees Celsius, -4 degrees Fahrenheit. It was her persistent meowing that drew the attention of passers-by, who expected an injured animal but instead uncovered a life-or-death situation. The cardboard box housing the baby was neither insulated nor lined, yet Masha had instinctively climbed in and remained there, sharing her body heat through the night. Paramedics who arrived at the scene were quick to credit her with saving the child's life. One described the scene as incredible, noting that she not only kept the baby warm, but appeared anxious when the infant was taken away, chasing after the ambulance. Masha's actions transcend typical animal behaviour, aligning more closely with the protective, almost maternal responses observed in higher mammals. This solitary feline, with no prior connection to the child, became a symbol of compassion in a moment that seemed to bridge the divide between human vulnerability and animal empathy. The local community in Obninsk reacted with a mix of astonishment and reverence, quickly elevating Masha from alley cat to local legend. Irina Lavrova, the woman who first discovered the scene, initially assumed Masha was injured due to her loud, persistent cries. What she found instead was an act of silent guardianship, the cat firmly stationed beside the child, watching over him like a sentry. Witnesses noted that Masha showed no signs of aggression when approached, behaving in a remarkably composed manner for an animal in such a scenario. One paramedic later described her as rational, a curious term for a feline, suggesting an observed pattern of purposeful situational behaviour rather than simple instinct. In a region familiar with stray animals, Masha's specific choice to stay, protect and protest the removal of the baby shifted her in the public eye from mere pet to something closer to an agent of fate. Children began leaving treats for her in the stairwell, and she was soon offered a warm home by neighbours, although Masha continued to roam freely, always returning to the scene of her vigil. Her conduct left many in Obninsk quietly contemplating whether animals are more intuitive and more invested in human welfare than we give them credit for. The events surrounding Masha raise more than simple questions of animal instinct. They prompt a reassessment of the boundaries between reason, empathy, and survival response in non-human creatures. Was Masha acting out of pure biological programming, responding to the warmth or the scent of a vulnerable creature? Or was there a deeper, emotionally resonant decision made to stay, protect, and refuse to leave? Behavioral science often warns against anthropomorphizing animals, but cases like this press against those boundaries. Replication is impossible, and yet the emotional clarity of Masha's behaviour is difficult to dismiss. Comparative ethologists have long studied whether animals possess forms of proto-empathy, rudimentary cognitive or emotional states that allow them to distinguish the distress of others. In this context, Masha's actions do not appear random or solely thermal seeking. They are consistent with known altruistic behaviours documented in some primates and domesticated dogs. The lasting fascination with her act lies in this ambiguity. Science may categorize it as instinct, but the human heart reads it as care. And in that space between data and legend, Masha continues to live as more than a footnote. She becomes a question in fur. In recent years, scientific inquiry into feline cognition has begun to catch up with anecdotal awe. Studies at Kyoto University in 2021, building on earlier work from the same institution, provided compelling evidence that domestic cats can match names to faces of familiar felines, a cognitive feat once thought limited to primates and dogs. In control conditions, cats were shown images of other cats from the same household, while hearing either the correct name or a mismatched one. When the names did not match the face, the observing cat displayed signs of confusion and curiosity, pausing longer, orienting toward the screen and showing altered ear and eye movement. These behavioural cues indicate not only auditory recognition, but a rudimentary form of associative memory. Another prior study revealed that cats preferentially respond to their owner's voice over that of strangers, and are capable of interpreting tone and vocal familiarity. This undermines the stereotype of feline detachment. While they may not react overtly, the internal processing of human cues is both active and specific. Together, these findings suggest that cats possess a layered social awareness, one that is often underestimated due to their quieter, more independent demeanour. Against this scientific backdrop, the story of Tama, a calico cat from rural Japan, adds a socio-culture dimension to feline intelligence. Born around April 1999 and unofficially adopted by staff at Kishi Station in Wakayama Prefecture, Tama's appointment as honorary stationmaster in 2007 was initially seen as a quirky marketing tactic, yet what followed was a national phenomenon. Tama, clad in a tiny stationmaster's hat and collar, assumed a near-ceremonial role, greeting passengers, remaining stationed at the gate, and providing a dependable presence during operating hours. Her image, dutiful posture, and perceived calmness under public scrutiny began drawing hundreds of tourists daily. Media attention surged, and revenues for the Nankai Electric Railway's Kishigawa line rose significantly, prompting officials to credit the feline with saving the otherwise ailing route. Merchandising followed, with Tama-branded souvenirs, themed train cars, and even children's books. Her anthropomorphized role reflected a deeply rooted cultural tendency in Japan to imbue animals with spiritual and societal significance, often derived from Shinto beliefs in animal kami or spirits. When Tama passed away on 22 June 2015, the nation mourned as if for a human dignitary. Around 3,000 people attended her memorial, held in the traditional Shinto style. At the heart of this ceremony was a symbolic transformation. Tama was enshrined as a deity under the name Tama Daimyokin, a local guardian spirit, in the cultural lexicon. Her remains were interred at a specially constructed shrine next to Kishi Station, where mourners laid offerings of sake, shrimp, and sardines. In a society where anthropomorphism blends seamlessly with ritual, Tama's life and death became a narrative of elevation, from street cat to spiritual entity. In the years that followed, tourism to the region sustained itself through this mythology. Train carriages were redesigned to honour her, and a successor, Nitama, literally second Tama, was ceremoniously appointed. The cat's legacy illustrates not just affection for animals, but also Japan's intricate relationship with symbolism, continuity, and collective memory. Her Shinto enshrinement marked the culmination of a cultural phenomenon, one that blurred the boundary between mascot and metaphysical guardian. Tama's legacy was more than emotional. It had measurable economic and socio-cultural repercussions. The phenomenon was dubbed nekonomics, a portmanteau of Neko, cat, and economics, referring to the economic revitalization spurred by Tama's celebrity. According to official figures, her presence brought in an estimated 1.1 billion yen to the local economy between 2007 and 2015. Beyond financial metrics, her image became synonymous with regional pride and resilience. Shrine offerings and pilgrimage-like visits turned a humble train station into a locus of shared experience. Children wore Tama-themed hats, shops produced limited edition memorabilia, and elderly residents reported renewed traffic to once quiet towns. The anthropomorphized symbolism of Tama allow people to project onto her a sense of continuity, luck, and community cohesion. This fusion of economic revival and feline affection reveals how animals, when emotionally and culturally positioned, can exert profound influence not only on hearts, but on entire regions. From Masha's silent heroism in the frozen stairwell of Obninsk to Tama's ceremonial duties at a sleepy rural station, a narrative emerges that defies tidy explanation. These stories, though geographically and culturally distinct, share a resonance that unsettles our assumptions about animal consciousness. Both cats acted in ways that transcended survival or training, one by shielding a baby in mortal danger, the other by adopting a public role with consistent behaviour and calm under pressure. Their tales are not whimsical curiosities, they are lived, documented phenomena that pose challenging questions about cognition, communication, and the human need to make sense of animal agency. The intersection of scientific study and anecdotal wonder invites us to reconsider how much understanding animals possess and how much we project onto them. Yet the enduring power of both tales lies not just in biology or folklore, but in their capacity to move us. In an era marked by disconnection and skepticism, these feline emissaries stitched threads of mystery, loyalty, and empathy into the fabric of daily life. On that unforgiving January night in 2015, the chill in Obninsk was enough to sap life from the unprotected in mere minutes. Against this deadly backdrop, a tiny cry pierced the stairwell of a housing block, echoing with urgency and desperation. It was not the infant cry, but Masha's meows that rang out. Inside a damp, makeshift box was a newborn, his skin already beginning to pale from the cold. Without hesitation, the stray cat had inserted herself into the box, curling tightly around the infant and refusing to budge. Even when paramedics arrived, Masha remained beside the child, hissing gently when hands reached in as if protesting the disruption. Only when the child was safely secured did she relent, and astonishingly, she padded softly after the ambulance, stopping only at the station's edge. This second recounting serves not to embellish, but to reinforce. Masha's behaviour was not momentary or fluke. It was sustained, committed, and unusually consistent with higher-order caregiving behaviours found in primates and social mammals. At Kiji Station, Tama's legacy crystallised into both numbers and rituals, the cat's daily routine. Arriving by 9 a.m, station until late afternoon, became a fixture so predictable that locals began adjusting their commutes to coincide with her watchful presence. The economic data followed swiftly. Increased tourism, sustained media coverage, and the rebirth of a regional rail line once threatened with closure. Upon her death, tributes poured in from across the nation. The train line halted operations for a minute of silence. A Google Doodle marked what would have been her 18th birthday. New trains bearing her image, dubbed Tama Densha, were launched, complete with cat-faced windows and interiors styled with feline motifs. This was not mere nostalgia, it was infrastructure transformed by animal narrative. The story of Tama proves that economic systems are not immune to sentiment, that in the right context, even a cat can drive capital, revive pride, and rewire an entire community's future.